Hello and welcome, Patreon. Great to have you back on the Personnel Files. This is where we talk to a celebrity guest and pick their brain, talk to them a little bit about their lives. I, of course, am Charlie Carden, your regular SFU guy, but I am joined as always by my partners in crime, Missy Merchant. Missy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello. And the awesome Kae Quinn. Hello, Kae.
Hey, glad to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. And we are joined by the fantastic Elizabeth Dennehy. Elizabeth, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Oh, no, we're doing good. And Elizabeth, you come to us by way of my old school chum, Kurt Krug, who is a freelance journalist here in Michigan. He was kind enough to introduce us. So thank you for making the time for us. We're very excited to talk to you. I will let Missy tip us off.
So we always try and lay some groundwork for our mainly Trek-based podcast that we're doing here with Code 47. So prior to filming on TNG, what, if anything, was your exposure to Star Trek?
Zero.
Wow.
Zero. I really hesitate to even admit this because it makes me feel like such an imposter. When I was growing up, I get asked this question a lot. And when I was growing up, I went to an all-girl Catholic school, and the people who watched Star Trek were not the cool people, if that makes sense.
Are you serious?
I admit it, but the original Star Trek, I don't know. Sci-fi just didn't grab me. And I know that people read sci-fi, and I was instead in the camp of period piece, Merchant Ivory films, Six Wives of Henry VIII, Upstairs, Downstairs, Brideshead Revisited. That was my jam. I was always I was a complete Anglophile, and I grew up loving Shakespeare, and I grew up loving period dramas and period pieces. And so the whole sci-fi thing just kind of passed me by. I hate to admit that, but
it's okay.
So I never watched the original series. And I was 28 and I just moved to LA, and I went on an audition, and I was like, Star Trek Next Generation, what's that? It was just another audition. And, even when I booked the job and I showed up on the set, I was like, oh, you're Riker? Who's the baldy guy? I mean, I had...
That is awesome.
Who's the baldy guy? That'll be the name of this interview. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep.
Sure, go for it. I had no idea who anybody was, and I think that was actually really a good thing for Shelby. Like, you've got a problem to solve. We have this Borg problem to solve. I don't care who you are. I don't care who's your rank. Here I am to solve your problem. And if I had been a fan, if I had realized the prestige of what I was doing, I think I would have been too intimidated to be, as ballsy as I was. And
right.
I just didn't care. I didn't care. The thing that I think that what pissed people off but also made people like Shelby was that she didn't care about being liked. She had a job to do, and she came in, she wasn't going to kiss anybody's ass, and she didn't care whose feelings she hurt, or she didn't care about being liked. She had a problem to solve. And so that helped me, that ignorance, the complete ignorance of what I was doing. I remember Jonathan saying to me the first day, you have no idea what's about to happen to you, do you? And I was like, what are you talking about? No. What do you mean? What's going to happen to me? Boy, did he know what he was saying, and I had no clue.
Wow. Awesome. Boy, Kae, that falls right into your camp, because that's your next question.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was your first day of TNG like for filming?
Oh, this is so humiliating. If you watch The Ready Room, I talked about this.
Right.
I don't know why they didn't fire me. I was terrible the first day. 28, really stupid. I don't know if I was cocky or I just, I could not get. The first day was, actually, I think it's a scene in The Ready Room where it was with the whole cast, and I had to say, projections suggest that a Borg ship like this one could continue to function effectively, even if 78% of it were rendered inoperable. Could not say that line. Couldn't say that. Could not say it. Never forget it now.
Right.
And I was so flummoxed and so falling apart. And of course, the harder I tried, the worse it got. And
Sure.
I really think that nowadays they would have fired me. I don't know why they didn't fire me. And so
the show must go on.
I think I thought I knew the lines better than I did. Clearly I did.
Mhm.
It just got worse and worse and worse. And so that night I went home and just schooled myself and crammed the lines in. Like, I just thought I knew them better than I did. And I'm so grateful that they didn't fire me and that they gave me another shot, because of course from then on it was smooth sailing. But that first day was horrible. Really horrible.
So what was it like then? Because, obviously you had a very rough start, and, Shelby comes on and she's very abrasive with a lot of the characters, and there's a lot of kind of strife and conflict, on set or on screen. So what was it like coming in and stepping back in for Picard in your role after the characters have kind of grown and changed so much?
Well, first of all, something that you have to understand, I'll come back to your question, but I want to lay this groundwork because this is really huge. When we shot the first episode of Best of Both Worlds, we had no idea what the second part was going to be.
Right. I've heard that.
So you have to imagine it's 3 months before the finale, the completion, the second part. And so Jonathan and I were like, we have no idea if I'm a Borg in disguise, if I'm a villain, if we're going to fall in love and end up in bed together. We had no idea.
Whoa.
Imagine what that's like before computers, no internet. This is 1990. There was no way for me to even look up on YouTube who everybody was. There was no technology for watching old episodes and getting familiar with who people were. Can you try to imagine a time where that's not possible, where you can't watch anything you want? Not even libraries had old shows.
Yeah, right. Because they were not even VHS tapes, right? Back in those days. Yeah.
I think we did have VHS tapes, which
There
I
you
still didn't understand how to set up and record.
I read a quote from you right around that time talking about what a wild ride it was, and you said having a phaser was like pointing your TV remote at somebody and pushing the button. I thought that was such a great quote.
And that is major, major technology. A TV remote. Back in 1990, ATMs were magic.
Money comes out of this machine. What the heck?
Before ATMs, you would have to leave work, rush to the bank, line up in order to have cash for the weekend. ATMs came along and it was magic time. That you did not have to go to the bank and get cash that you would need to get, because the banks would be closed on Saturday and Sunday. And if you didn't have enough cash for the weekend, you weren't going anywhere.
Oh, man. Yuck.
So ATMs were Harry Potter. They were magic.
Magic ATMs.
So to answer your question, we didn't know what was going to happen. So we had to plant the seeds. All those little like side-eye things were just in case I turned out to be a double agent and a spy, and that I was actually going to destroy their world rather than save their world. Or that, we were going to, that we had some heat between us for any eventuality, and we had to be prepared for everything, so that when the second episode dropped, you didn't go, hold on a second, why are they in love with each other? We had to, so all of those things we had to play ambiguity, that so any possibility would be believable or feasible. So when it wrapped up the way it did, it was like, okay, that happened. And then Picard, same thing. Like, I had this speech, is she dead or is she not? So that anything is feasible if they bring me back, which I really hope they do. I really hope she's not dead. that all the possibilities are possible.
Right.
Any eventuality is possible because it's ambiguous enough. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Because we have no idea what's going to happen. We have no idea.
Right.
I would love to go back. And I would love to you want to keep all the options open for as long as possible, right?
Got it.
So, having not had exposure to Star Trek, what was the audition process like for Shelby? And, like, what were you able to bring yourself into that? Or was it like, this is who she's going to be and that's it?
That's a really good question. I have to think back to, it was just another audition. And I went in there and I was sort of like, whatever, sci-fi show. It's not my jam, but whatever. And I remember there was an actress in the waiting room and I went, oh my God, this has got to be a big deal. It was Joanna Pakula who had done Gorky Park with William Hurt and coincidentally my dad. And that had come out. And so everybody was talking about Joanna Pakula, this Polish actress. And I was like, oh my God, she's here. I better take this seriously. That I remember that. And I got a call back. They gave me some adjustments and that's all I remember is, booking it. But I was 28 and I just moved to LA and I was like, this, of course, this is what my life is going to be like. I'm just going to, start booking jobs. So I was just very blasé about the whole thing. Stupid and crazy and, green.
Young and dumb, as they say.
Young and dumb.
Now my son I have a son who's in his 20s and he's working. He's in the Weird Al Yankovic biopic.
Oh God, that was so much fun.
He's really working, and he just did 3 episodes of The Bear. And again, I see the blase, like, of course, yeah. It's like, it's been like so long since I had a job. I'm like, you freaking book like every other audition. Shut up. Like he has hotshot, starting young upstart energy that I had. So
right.
Come full circle. So yeah. So the audition was just another audition. And then, I got it. And then after, I can't remember I don't think I got my first convention until after both aired. And my first convention was in St. Louis, Missouri, and it was with George Takei, and it was amazing.
I saw George right around that same time. It was in the fall of '92. I was 16 here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I live. And it was like, whoa. I have a picture somewhere my mom snapped. I was right at the line and he was signing something. And then I saw him at Mission Chicago last year and told him the story. And he just said, oh my. It was fantastic. Oh my goodness.
I remember because I am not fluent in Star Trek, I thought the fans were gonna destroy me. Like, how dare you have so little respect for this thing that means so much to us. I was so terrified. I was so nervous that I had 3 Bloody Marys before I went on stage.
Oh my goodness! Oh no! Oh,
did that seem to help or hurt?
So scared. I really thought they were going to tear me limb from limb, and they could not have been sweeter. Everybody was so nice and kind. And I remember sitting at the table where we were signing stuff, and somebody in a full costume. This was it was my first time, dressed head to toe in the full Starfleet uniform with a stack of VHS tapes like this.
Oh my gosh!
Every film that George Takei was ever in Japan for him to sign, like. Oh
holy cow.
These people do not play. They are not playing. This is serious.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. Did we skip over Missy? Did you have another question?
Nope, it's on to you.
Oh my goodness, on to you. So Elizabeth, we on our show, which is called Code 47, a Star Trek podcast that we do on our network, we just had our 100th episode, which was very exciting for us. But myself and Missy and a couple of other people did a bracket challenge where we would pit episodes series against each other. We would discuss. There were 5 of us, so we would vote, and the best of both worlds made it to number 2 out of 45 episodes. and then it fell to The Measure of a Man, which is another Star Trek: The Next Generation episode about Data's trial for his rights and stuff, and that won out. So, I mean, it's at least amongst us, five Trekker nerds. I mean, that's top marks. I mean, how does that make you feel looking back?
It's very flattering. It's really lovely. I mean, I get on Cameo and I get asked to record messages all the time. And the fact that people care so much 30 years after a job, it's very touching. It's very moving. It's really nice. And I was so happy to be brought back because it's the first thing everybody asks is, why didn't you come back? And I'm like, I have no idea. I was hired for 2 episodes. That was it. So that was really lovely. And to see Jonathan again and do the Ready Room. I mean, I was verklempt. It was very, very moving because there's not often do you feel like you've made an impression in the world and with your work. And like my husband was in the movie Titanic, and now because I think it's the 25th anniversary or anniversary. So he's doing lots of interviews and stuff like that now. And how can you not be moved? How can you not be touched that something that you did so long ago means so much to so many people? It's really lovely.
If I might ask, what was his role in Titanic? I love that movie and I've seen it a million times.
I have a crazy Titanic story. Okay. So we were newly married, and he's Irish. He's from Ireland. He and Colomini were friends when they were teenagers. They've been best friends their whole lives. So, and he told his agents when he heard about the movie Titanic, he said, I better be in this because I'm Irish and it was built and run by Irish people. And if I'm not in this, you're fired. So he had an audition to be the role that the engineer of the boat, Victor
Garber's role. Yeah.
And he didn't get that. And then he auditioned for the priest who's reading from the Bible as the boat goes down.
Oh yeah. Wow.
And so he auditioned for it, and he prepared the chapter verse from Revelations, and there shall be no more dying, and the former world will pass away. He auditioned for it. After his audition for it, his father died. Oh. He flew to Ireland, and his brother picked him up at the airport and said, oh, Mom wants you to read something at Dad's funeral. Same exact passage from Revelation. Verse. He was off book for his father's funeral, booked the job, and a week later he was in Mexico in Rosarito Beach performing the passage that he read at his dad's funeral.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So when you watch that movie, there's no acting involved whatsoever.
My gosh. That is incredible. Holy cow.
That must have had a really emotional toll on him on set to be reliving that moment.
Yeah. And to this day, his mother is 97, has not watched the film.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
Isn't that a crazy, crazy story? Of all the passages that you could use, it's the same exact passage.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. All right. Kae.
Well, yes, we'll shift gears a little bit here. So if you could trade roles with any other actor on TNG or on Picard for one day, what character would you love to play and why?
Stumped!
I've never seen any other episodes of
Would it be the bald guy?
Yeah, sure. I'd like his salary. Yeah. So,
well, who wouldn't?
We'll play hard and get that paycheck. I mean, I think Jerry Ryan is really cool and really amazing. So but I love Shelby. I love Shelby, and I the fact that people, when I first started going to conventions and people were like, I hated you. You were such a bitch. You were so rude to Riker. And now 30 years later, people are like, you were a role model. And I've met people who have named their babies Elizabeth Shelby. I mean, so I have a soft spot in my heart for Shelby. So of course, I would. Who would you want to be Picard?
Fair. That's fair.
No doubt. No doubt. I have a total sidebar question that I'm going to sneak in here. Missy's going to be mad because I'm going off book. I was in the early 2000s a very big fan of that New Frontier book series, of which Shelby was one of the primary characters. I'm sure you're familiar. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but they gave her this whole non-canonical backstory, and she had a past with the captain, and then they got married, and she got promoted to admiral, and she had a space station, all this different stuff. Yeah, it was a whole. Well, am I giving you this information for the first time?
I've heard about the books, but I've never read them.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I absolutely love that, and that's how we kind of learned about Shelby. And then you showed up, I think you showed up on Lower Decks, kind of in a flashback, or the character did. I can't remember if you had a line or if that was something that you actually did.
I've never seen it.
Oh no, so that's a big no. But it does.
I do love the animation of me. I love that.
We have in our chapter, we've had various animations done of our crew members. So I like me in animated form too. I think I look fantastic. But to get,
I absolutely loathe the hairstyle I had on Next Gen, Best of Both Worlds, and so that was the first thing I said when I went back on Picard. Is like, do not recreate that hair. I want badass hair. I do not want that hairstyle. So they need to do Lower Depths again with my new improved Admiral.
Yes, improve the hair. All right. Well, now I'll get back on topic, but I was just thinking about how much I love that book series, and I was curious if you had any familiarity. So, Star Trek is a great big family. That goes without saying. Your time on the Red Room, it was reflective of that as well. Now that you are part of the family, I mean, what's that like? What does that feel like? Not to just be a part of the fandom community, which you were talking a little bit about, but also, your relationships with people like Jonathan Frakes and other people that you met doing your stint on Best of Both Worlds. I mean, tell us about that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
We have that, but there's also the family of actors in Hollywood. So, there are times when I feel like there's 6 people in the business. Like, I said that James and Colin were really good friends all through the teenage years. And last summer we traveled to Ireland for his daughter's wedding. And I moved to LA in '89. I was doing Tony and Tina's wedding. I got cast in a play at South Coast Rep, David Hare play called Secret Rapture. In the show was Colin's wife, Barbara Dowling, Irish actress, and an English actor called Simon Templeman. During the run of that show, Simon told us, "Oh, my wife, Rosalind Chow, Barbara, just got cast as your husband's wife in Deep Space Nine."
Right.
Simon and Roz are still to this day 2 of our dearest friends, along with Colin. And actually, Colin was my first son's godfather, and Simon is my second son's godfather.
6 people in Hollywood. That is nutty. Oh my goodness. And I have, being of Irish background myself, going back a few generations, always adored O'Brien. That's the only, I will admit I'm not as well traveled as my friends here on the show, but I have been to Ireland on a family vacation. It was 25 years ago. And when Deep Space Nine was on the air, so it was the air crackled thinking about Chief O'Brien climbing those hills and all that kind of stuff. So that's wild. I love it. 6 people in Hollywood.
I go to Ireland pretty much every year because my husband's from there and his mother is still alive. So he's actually, he was there, but now he's in France, but he's going back to Ireland. So awesome. We go way back with the Irish run strong in the family.
I love it. I love to get back there sometimes and back to the motherland. Missy.
So kind of tying in with like the Star Trek family, both the actors, both, the Hollywood scene, and also with the fans for sure. As you experience with the convention of us being a little bit more heartwarming and forgiving, what is it that you like most about going to conventions?
Oh, that's a good question. I love the whole thing. First of all, you can fly me first class anywhere.
That is also very
fair.
So I love traveling. And the last one I did was in November 2021 when it was like you had to have your proof of vaccination. We had to be tested every single day. It was in the UK. And so I flew, James, my husband, booked a flight. We were in London. I love London. We have so much fun there. I got to meet Alice Kriege, which was incredible.
The Queen.
The Queen, and have my picture taken with the Queen. I tweeted that. I mean, I just love all of it. I love meeting all the people. Talk about the family, getting to see, Eric Stillwell and the Denise and Michael, and seeing all the people that, otherwise it's just so hard to get together with them. And it's just a blast. I want to do more of them. So to spread the word, I want to do the cruise.
Myself and my wife were on the cruise last year. Missy and her husband are going to be on the cruise with us next year. We're all going to, the three of us are going to be at Star Trek Las Vegas. So yeah, we're branching out and finally getting into the nitty-gritty, but the cruise was incredible. Just incredible.
I want to do it. I met John Billingsley for the first time in this UK, the one in London, and we shared the cab. We shared the flight and then the cab to the hotel. And I've seen him in LA, and he works them all the time. And I'm like, I want to do more. I want to do more of them. I just love traveling. I love meeting the people. There's nothing I don't like about it. There was one convention where it was in England, but the hotel we stayed in was really far from the convention place, and the bus ride back and forth was really long, and that I did not love. That was the only thing. But I mean, first world problems. I'm complaining about that.
I hear you. God, yeah, I would love to meet you in person at a con someday. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, anytime, I'll go anywhere.
We'll spread the word.
Please.
Oh, Kae, you're muted, dear. I hate it when that happens.
You're right. I am. Sorry. I have very hyper dogs today, so I've been trying to mute myself. But just speaking of, I'm kind of jumping off the point of the bus here. Do you have any like super memorable or crazy or goofy experiences with fans so far at conventions? Or I guess, what is your favorite interaction so far?
Favorite? Oh, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. No, I mean, just everybody's been really, really respectful, really sweet. I love that we moved past the time when people were like, I hated you, you're a bitch. That was always like, it's the first time I'm meeting you, so where's this going?
Yeah.
Glad we moved past that. I don't get that so much anymore. I remember when I first started doing them, being really shocked that you check into the hotel under an assumed name, thinking, wow, what's that all about? That I guess people will try to find your room, being a little bit alarmed about that. That's
big time.
What's really funny is here I am in LA, where a lot of actors live, and I go to my day-to-day life. I go grocery shopping. I go about my daily life. Never am I recognized. Never am I, do I get people even looking at me or taking a second look. When you go to a convention and you get in the elevator and people will go, oh!
I've done it. I've done it.
It's so funny. It's like you step through a portal where I am now Harrison Ford. In my day-to-day life, I'm just ordinary old Elizabeth, going grocery shopping, taking the dogs out for a walk, going to the dry cleaners, just living my everyday life. And then you go to a town, and in this hotel, I am now Tom Cruise, and you're the biggest star. And it's so weird. It's really, really bizarre. Where you're sharing an elevator with somebody, or you're having breakfast in the hotel restaurant, and people are like, hi, and completely freaking out, and I forget. I'm like, why is that person? Oh, that's right. I'm Tom Hanks.
I'm Tom Hanks. I love it.
I'm doing
it's kind of the seems.
It's wild.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it's a little bit of the best of both worlds, because you kind of get to choose when you have like people like swarming you. Like you can prepare for that versus it just being something that just happens randomly.
So I'm not going to go down to the lobby to get coffee without doing the whole hair and makeup thing on that.
Yes, exactly. Right. Prepare yourself. But along those same lines, were there any like hilarious moments while you were on Star Trek, or I guess like your most memorable experience besides, the unfortunate incident of your first day?
Um, I remember, first of all, Jonathan had worked with my dad. So the first day he was like, we started telling stories about my father. They'd done theater together in New York and catching up. And he was just could not have been lovelier. So that was a great jumping off point. And I remember Patrick is a little prankster, and he tried to set me up with Brent. He was like, I think the two of you should go on a holiday together. And Brent, I felt like never spoke to me again for the next, the whole. But they took me out to dinner the first night to a restaurant that sadly no longer exists, and just could not have been more welcoming and lovely. They were lovely. But I will say this, something I remember is the first part was the last show of the season. And the second part was the first episode of the next season. And when you're doing the last show of a season, the actors are tired. They're really tired. They're sick of costumes. Poor Michael Dorn. I mean, they're just sick of it. They need a break. They need their summer holiday. And the energy was so different between the two episodes, where they're just like, okay, they need sleep. They've been getting up really early in the morning, and they're not complaining, but they're ready for their break. And then they're refreshed over the summer. You come back and you do the first show of the next season. I was ready for the best of both worlds to be over, because then I could eat again. Those costumes were unforgiving. I had to spend that whole summer not eating anything, because also, it was a direct pickup, so I have to look exactly the same.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember Patrick trying to fix me up with Brent. I remember thinking it was so funny that here you are with all this like buttons and buzzers and things lighting up, and the Borg costumes were amazing. And when the ship gets hit, that they would say, okay, is this a 2 or 3 or an 8? And I was like, what are you talking about? And an A is 2 is that. And I thought, you've got to be kidding. All this modern technology. It is little kids playing dress up and playing make believe.
I do love watching those blooper reels of people and them sitting there going, okay, now shake, and everybody goes. And it just looks so funny when the camera isn't, like when they haven't adjusted the camera for it.
You're supposed to be, at death's door, and all you want to do is go, you've got to be freaking kidding me. This is so hilarious. I just remember, the costumes are so uncomfortable, so unflattering, so unforgiving. And then the Borg, you see the Borg, and you're like, all right, shut up. Stop complaining about your costume.
You're wearing 50 pounds of rubber and all the little goo-gaws and blinkies. I can't even imagine.
And there were times when I would just be looking at Michael Dorn and going, shit, I'm sorry, I cannot take you seriously with this. This girl and you're in dire straits, like life and death situation. And there were times when I just would crack up despite myself.
That's how a blooper's born.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness.
So switching gears a little bit away from Star Trek, I've also heard that you've done some theater work yourself. Would that be anything you'd want to talk about real quick?
Oh, yeah, I love the theater. And right before the pandemic happened, like literally closed February 2nd, 2020, I did a play called The Humans down at San Diego Rep. And I'm a Shakespeare nerd, and I, up until last May, I spent 6 years teaching Shakespeare at an arts high school, the arts high school where my boys attended. I had one theater kid, the one who's acting now, and one filmmaker kid who's got a film in the Palm Springs Short Film Festival at the end of June. So, yeah, they're both doing really, really well. So I was teaching Shakespeare there until I realized that teaching 10th graders was aging me rapidly.
Oh my God. My father was a substitute teacher after he retired, and yeah, he would not do high school. He didn't want it to put him in the grave.
Yeah, well, the pandemic didn't help. Teaching remotely and making Shakespeare shows on Zoom with 37 10th graders was extremely challenging. So I decided to get out while I was still able to function and have a brain in my head. So, yeah, I love Shakespeare. I love theater. I was raised by an actor who he did TV and film so that he could do theater. His TV and film supported the time because you get paid like crap for a theater. You get paid very little. So he would do theater and film to supplement his theater career. And yeah, it's really, really so much fun. So much fun doing theater. And I want to do more of it.
Awesome.
That pretty much answers my next question then, so I'm just going to throw it back to Charlie.
Well, all right. This will be fun because we get to Kae and her love of a certain
I still love you, Kae.
Star Trek actor. I remember I'm a huge fan of the TV show Quantum Leap, as is Missy. Another one of our Patreon segments. We take old shows and we kind of split them up, and so we've done the first season of Quantum Leap, focusing on Scott Bakula, who is an actor who I think is great. But Kae, who had never watched Star Trek Enterprise before, watched the first episode where Scott Bakula always finds a reason to take his shirt off,
or be completely naked, or be completely
naked. In the first season of Quantum Leap, he is shirtless and or partially naked in every episode that Missy and I were enjoying skewering.
Yeah, this is nothing against Scott Bakula. I just don't understand why everybody wanted him to take his clothes off so much. I feel kind of bad for him that was a character crutch.
But I know that you did an episode. The three of us were at breakfast this morning. I remember the episode that you did had to do with a bank robbery. You were one of the hostages inside this bank, and Sam, the character, had let back to his small town in Indiana, and he was one of the bank robbers. So, tell me about being around Scott Bakula and kind of what being on Quantum Leap was like.
Well, the cool thing about that show is that he actually directed that episode.
Oh.
So he was just amazing. To give you an idea of what he was like, he directed the episode, and in the cast, I don't know how long ago you saw it, but there was an old couple. Dennis Dugan, who's the director, his parents, the Dugans, Marion and Charles Dugan, and they were really old then. And on the shoot, they celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary.
Whoa.
Aww.
And I don't even know how Scott Bakula knew this, but he brought in a huge cake and we sang happy anniversary together.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's so precious.
Now, these are two guest stars. They're just there for the week like everybody else, but everything stopped to honor them. So
gosh.
Of what he's like and what his set is like, and he was a director and acting in it, so there you go.
And kept his clothes on the whole time.
And he kept and yet that was a close-on episode. Yeah, I now would really like to meet him, but I know that he doesn't really get involved with Star Trek or conventions or anything like that, to my knowledge.
Does he? I didn't know.
I believe he does not. So fingers crossed that might change someday. That would be absolutely awesome. So
there's another bit of trivia about that show that's pretty cool is one of the bank robbers is played by an actor called Dwyer Brown, who was in the movie Field of Dreams and played Kevin Costner's father.
Oh, okay. We watched that movie not that long ago. I rewatched, of course, I saw it when I was a kid. So awesome.
So another bit of talk about the six people in this business.
Yeah, the six people of Hollywood. Oh my goodness. Do you have? And I know you said you are very much the actor's actor. You've done a lot of different things. Have you found in your career there's another genre or any genre in particular that you really enjoy more than another, or maybe don't enjoy more than another?
It's so funny that you should ask that, because I was just thinking about this. I, for some weird reason, did a Western 150 years ago. I did the Lazarus Man, pilot episode of The Lazarus Man on TNT with Robert Urich. And I love Westerns, and I'm shooting a Western right now, Full Circle, directed by, written by, and starring Kevin Costner.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
fun.
Oh, yeah.
Called Horizon. And for some reason, Westerns keep coming back to me, and I love Westerns. I love the clothes. In The Lazarus Man, I had a long blonde wig, gorgeous dresses. I got to punch a soldier and drive
Nice.
a sword and shoot a gun. And in Horizon, I go there. I go back to Utah to shoot movie 2. Horizon's a 4-part. Well, I think it's going to be 4 parts. And I did movie 1 in September, and I go back in June, like next week, to shoot movie 2. And I don't know when we're shooting movie 4, but the vistas, the scenery, I love, love, love being in a Western. So
That is awesome.
yeah.
Well, I guess that then maybe this will be an easy answer for you, because what would be your dream role then? And I guess maybe we'll open up film or theater.
I would love to play Queen Margaret in Richard III. Here's the thing.
Oh,
I get as the older you get. I mean, there are roles that I would love. I would love to play Gertrude in Hamlet. I would love to play Queen Margaret in Richard III. Queen Margaret in all of the Henry VIs is amazing, but I'm too old to play her in the Henry VIs. But there's a couple of roles left for me, and Queen Margaret and Richard III would be a blast, or the Duchess of York, Richard's mom. I would love to play Paulina in The Winter's Tale. I don't know what, I'm a Shakespeare nerd, so those are really great, juicy parts that I would love to play. Yeah.
Now, do you have any deal breakers as far as like roles or stunts, or there's something that you read on paper and you'd be like, no, I'm going to have to pass on that part?
Gosh. I probably would have a problem with gratuitous violence and gratuitous nudity. Nobody needs to see that. And I don't think anybody's going to come knocking in that regard. But yeah, like if it was just, you were just there just to get slaughtered and chopped up or be begging for mercy or things. I mean, I think, thank God, those days are behind us. I think everybody has a problem with women just being chopped up for no reason. I remember seeing the movie, the Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And there was a woman who was just kind of cut up, and I was like, hell no, I hated that.
Yeah.
That was the only reason she was there. And I remember a lot of people expressing distaste for that. I think hopefully we're moving past that. I mean, all those Saw movies and Hostel, no, I can't. I just can't with that. So if I was to ever do something like that, you would have to pay me so much money that I couldn't refuse.
So with all the roles that you have done, either on film and with theater, are there any that are that really are close to you as far as you could put a lot of yourself in them, or some that are like, that is completely not who I am, it was completely acting the whole time?
Horizon has been my favorite job so far. Kevin Costner was a dream to work with. I was working with Michael Rooker, he plays my husband, and Sienna Miller. I mean, the whole time we were shooting Horizon in Moab, which is so beautiful. I don't know if you've ever been to Moab. And of course, the sun is coming up, so it's like being in paradise. So that role, I'm so glad I get to do 2 more films. And so, that's going to be so hard when that's over. So that right now is very near and dear to me. In terms of where just, I mean, the parts where I was just showing up and just acting. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I got to play the bad guy, the villain, in a show called The Mentalist. Mm-hmm. That was unusual, to be the murderer. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Oh no!
Already seen it. Darn.
That was unusual. Yeah, that I did not see that coming. Nothing is racing to my mind. I've done a couple of commercials where it was like, oh God, end this hell. They're under a rain machine for 3 nights, long nights, overnight. in a rain machine. Where I was like, I am so unhappy. If I think of something while we're talking, I just
Okay.
auditioned for a commercial where I had to be a talking hot dog, and I wanted it so badly. I tried so hard to get it because it was shooting in Mexico City, and I love Mexico City, and that was the only reason why I put my heart and soul into that, and I didn't get it.
Aw.
Oh,
Aw. Sorry.
You've already touched a little bit about the extent that your family is in Hollywood in the acting filmmaking business. Have you ever gotten to work with any of them on a project?
Great question. My father did. Oh God, I can never remember the name of the series. A series of movies of the week where he played a cop, and I can never remember the name of the series. He did a whole bunch of movies of the week, and one time he wrote the script and directed it, and he cast all of us in it. So my husband, my sister, her husband at the time, all his friends, and I played Miguel Ferrer's wife, and Miguel Ferrer was the bad guy, and so I was directed by him, and then I did a movie called Welcome to Paradise where I played his daughter. That was really fun.
That's
And I
awesome.
acted with him. Yeah, it was really fun. Really great to work with him.
that's very, very cool. So, when you're working on any given role, how do you determine like how much of Elizabeth gets put into the character versus keeping yourself separate from them?
That's a good question. What you want to do is instead of looking at how you're different from the character, look at where your paths intersect so that it's less work. Um, I and pretty much on TV and film, you're going to get cast in roles that you can play. That you go in, you audition, and there are some similarities where your given circumstances my given circumstances as Elizabeth intersect with the given circumstances of the character. Now, I have played a lot of crying mothers. I played Hilary Duff's mom in Chicago Hope. She was having brain surgery, and using my imagination, was able to imagine if my child was having brain surgery. So the tears come, the emotion is there. So you glom onto the ways your given circumstances intersect with those of the characters. I had to play a mom once whose son died of AIDS. And I had a big long speech where the insurance company was trying to pay me off as settlement, pay me off. And I was wanting to sue them for more money because they wouldn't cover his medical expenses or the life-saving treatment that would have saved him because he had AIDS. So I have two boys. And so just using my imagination to try to imagine what if this was my situation. Even though that's so intensely extreme on an extreme level, I've played the mothers of people who have died, kids in the hospital. I play a lot of crying mothers. Anybody my age has played a lot of crying mothers. And it is not a pleasant place to be because everybody else is drinking coffee and chatting and snacking on the set. I just was never able to do that. You're often in the fetal position, people on their phones chit-chatting and playing Words with Friends or whatever while you're in between takes. I could never, ever do that. So it's not fun. I don't love playing those parts, but you get cast. I remember that I did an episode, Rizzoli and Isles episode where, oh my God, the woman's situation was so horrible. One daughter had already died. Our second daughter has died. And I remember going to the audition and everybody was lined up, sitting in chairs, and they're all in emotional fetal positions. So trying to work up their emotions, trying to work it up. And I was sitting there and I was like, nothing's coming. Nothing's coming. I don't have lump in my throat. I don't have anything under the surface. And I went in there and literally as I was walking in the door, I'm not going to be able to, the emotions not there, the tears aren't there, visible signs of emotion are not there. So right as I was walking in the door, I went, okay, I'm past it. I'm numb. I'm a zombie. I can't function. I can't even cry. and I freaking got it. I couldn't believe I got the job.
Wow.
And the producer actually came up to me and said, "You're so real. The audition, that's how you got the job." And I was like, that was really empty. And so I used that emptiness in the audition, if that makes any sense at all.
Oh yeah, that was what was needed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I
Yeah.
can't fake that. You can't go in there and be, you can't do that on film. They're filming your audition and it's going to show. So I just, in my mind, as I was walking through the door, it's like, I have this meeting in the police station, and on the way home, I'm just going to drive into a tree. So pretty bleak.
Yeah. So, are there any roles that you would recommend people seek out where they could really like get a scope and breadth of some of the stuff that you've done?
I mean, if you pull up those episodes, I did an episode of Command. Funny enough, see, here we come back to the six. There's 6 people.
Here's the 6.
I did Chicago Med, played Hillary Duff's mom, brain surgery, crying mom. So look that up. Adam Arkin was on that show. He was the doctor. So I had scenes with Adam Arkin. Fast forward a few years later, I did Commander in Chief, which Gina Davis is the president.
Love that show.
Borg plays her husband, and Matthew Arkin is my husband. And he was applying for the Attorney General, and I was the wife of that. So I had a wonderful scene with Polly Bergen, who played Gina Davis's mom on that didn't make the final cut. I was like,
Oh, bummer.
I'm sad about that. Beautiful, emotional scene. That was a funny story, actually. I just remembered, this all came back to me. Commander in Chief, we had shot it, and then they brought me back for reshoots, and I'm reading the script. I'm like, this scene is exactly the same. I don't understand why they have reshoots. And then I got new sides the night before. What they'd done was taken one scene out of the original script and replaced it with a new scene. I was like, oh my God, I have this whole sobbing monologue again.
Sobbing mom, sobbing monologue.
They rearranged the whole script. They'd taken out this whole, so you have like scripts have A story and B story. They'd replaced the whole B story with a whole new B story. And then they ended up not airing it.
What a journey.
Now you understand why a lot of actors prefer theater.
Right.
You can't edit it out.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's done.
In your face.
I'm on stage live and nobody can cut it out. It's happening in front of your face.
Oh my goodness. Holy cow. Well, as we start to wind down here, question that we'd like to ask all of our guests: if acting hadn't panned out for you, which is like, you're from this big showbiz family, so I'm sure when you decided that you were going this way, you were going this way. But if you hadn't been, if you were going to do something else in life, what do you think it would have been?
That's a great question. I now know. Like, I can talk about when I was young, but now I'm looking back and I think if I wasn't an actor, I would have been an amazing casting director. I remember every actor who played every single part I've ever seen. People say, who was that who played? And I'm like, I remember. I have a brain like a filing cabinet for that thing. Nothing else. No other. Don't ask me to cook anything. Don't ask me to do any math. I remember every actor who is in every single thing. Like the example of Dwyer Brown being in Quantum Leap. I was like, so familiar. Dwyer Brown. Why does he look so familiar? Field of Dreams. Oh my God. So that'll never go out of my brain. So I would have been a really good casting director. Starting out, probably a director. I probably would have pursued directing. I really love directing, and I'm pretty good at that. Mostly for the stage. Oh, absolutely for the stage. I think I would be a terrible film or TV director. I think I would be all of those moving parts, like the cameras and what's the best angle. No. I mean, people have to go to school for that. I would be.
Forget about it. I'm the same way. You say the casting director part, my wife sitting watching Star Trek with me. I'm like, oh, or any show. Hey, that guy's from Star Trek. Hey, did you know that guy was in TNG? Oh my God, 10 years of marriage and she hasn't executed me over it. So I'm impressed.
we were watching, if you watched White Lotus,
Yes, wonderful show.
season 2, I was like, it came on, I was like, oh my God, there's Uncle Rico, John Grice.
Oh, yeah.
That's just how my husband is like, you are unfreaking believable. Like, I should have been a casting director.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So I'm switching gears once again, kind of going back to something we were talking about when you're doing like all of these different roles, and just I guess like in general, how do you or what are some of the things you do to help keep yourself balanced, or what are the things you do for self-care?
Well, I'm very lucky that I live in Los Angeles and we can go hiking and walking and be outside a lot. That I love being outside. I just did a yoga class outdoors this morning and hiking Griffith Park. And so, and being with my family. I love my family. I have a great, great family. Travel, and we love to eat. We love to go out to eat. And yeah, so all of that, all of, everything that makes life worth living. Travel is, now that we're, in our dotage, travel is everything. While I can still walk and while my knees still,
Oh, you have just personified that, like celebrities, they're just like us. That's all I mean, my wife and I took our first trip to LA when we went on the Star Trek cruise in February. We did what you just described. We walked up Griffith Park and went to Griffith Observatory, and we just love being outside. That's when I get out of doing this, we're going to go for a walk around the little lake in our town, which is about 5 miles, because we just love doing that stuff. That's so crazy.
Here's my parents are both gone. My mother died at 74. My father died at 81. And it's like, while I still can, I want to go. I'm dying to go to Japan. I want to go to India. I want to travel and see the world. It makes life worth living.
No doubt. All
Absolutely.
Right. Missy, for the coup de grace.
For the nice little softball we like to end on, super simple. If you could give our listeners and ourselves one piece of life advice, what would it be?
Life advice.
Well, I just did.
Try
to see the world, and don't take everything so seriously. Everything's going to be fine. Believe in yourself. Work hard. It's worth it. I'd look at my sons, and they figured out a way that if they work hard and they're really ambitious and they dream big, it's so worth the amount of work it takes to get there. Don't be afraid of really pushing yourself and working hard, believing in yourself.
I love it.
Awesome.
Believe. Oh my gosh. Elizabeth, this has been absolutely terrific. Thank you so much for your time. We have really loved talking to you. And thank you. We'll wrap it up. Patreons, thank you as always for tuning into our bonus content. And we will see you in the future. Elizabeth, if people want to follow your work or know where to find you at conventions, how do they do that?
I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and, demand the convention people, hire me.
Yes.
I'm available. I'll travel anywhere.
Yes.
For first class.
Yes. Love first class. Yeah. Hire Elizabeth. She is delightful. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my friends, I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends.